Hello, and welcome back to our third episode of The Wave by Subaru Mechanics. Um, if you don't know, we are one of the largest Subaru groups on Facebook for diagnosing and getting to the bottom of your car troubles. I'm here with Dave. Introduce yourself, Dave.
Hey, I'm Dave, owner of Simply Subarus. We're just here to try to help people out.
Yep, Dave is a shop owner in Colorado, specializes in Subarus only, and he is also my co-host. And today we have a great assortment of topics. We're talking about superchargers, specifically the OE ones that Subaru made, if you didn't know. We're talking about cooling systems and what you should and shouldn't do. We're talking about a surprise topic. And then we're also talking about patents. Subaru has a lot of patents out at the moment, a lot of different names, a lot of different EV cars coming out. And so we're just going to kind of talk about the future a little bit. So to start things off, if you don't know, we also own another Facebook group called Subaru Rare Parts. And Subaru Rare Parts has recently become very popular. We're at 48,000 members in that group. And something that came across recently, I just have to say, I love rare part groups because the thing about them is there's always something I've never seen before. That was what drew me in, because when you looked at Naziok, they always had a rare parts section, and I would always go there and find random Tommy Kyra and whatever parts, always stuff I'd never seen, Casablanca front ends, and something that came
those.
Yeah.
First time I saw one, I was like, there's no way that's OEM.
Yeah. So something that came across was that, I'll put it on the screen here. Let me see. Here we go. So this is our Facebook group, and this right here came across today. And somebody found OE superchargers for Subarus. And if you didn't know, the Sambar, the Vivio, and I believe the RX are all JDM Subaru 1-liter engines that had bolt-on superchargers.
Which I did not know, and it's funny because we actually have a Sambar at our shop right now we're working on, and I'm going to have to send the link to this to my customer.
I saw a lot of people commenting saying that they might have to pick up a spare just in case. Now, the one thing about these that is very cool is that in the comments, I also learned that a lot of people use these for Harley Davidson engines, and they bolt right up, which I thought was very interesting. And then someone else made a joke that I think would be hilarious and amazing if it worked, was that you could run one of these on either side of the engine and run a single belt and potentially dual supercharge a 1-liter engine, which I thought was great. So
if anyone in Colorado area is interested in wanting to do this, give us a call. We'd be interested in working with you.
I would also be interested in seeing that happen.
and we would shamelessly document it all for everybody, because I think that would be a really cool thing.
Yeah, it actually says here the ASIN AMR 300 or AMR 500. So I believe there are two different superchargers, and it's used for the EN07 engines and the Sambar, Vivio, RX, etc. So apparently it doesn't make too big of a kick on these 1-liter engines, but I'm sure on the Harley engines it's pretty useful. So something I found really interesting. I particularly really like the supercharger kits, like the Vortec kits for the FRS and the BRZ and those. I wish Subaru did more superchargers, honestly.
I'll put my my stake in the ground as a diehard turbo guy.
You know what? It's hard for me. I've always loved superchargers and the whine. I love power the second you touch the pedal. And I had a supercharged Tiburon. So, you know, I with projects like that, it's hard to not love them. But I will I will say too, a lot of people growing up around me had the Cobalt SSs where you could get it either supercharged or turboed, which I thought was awesome because there's a lot of competition between people in the SS kind of, group. So,
Sure.
um, I think this is awesome. I didn't know. I think that with more cars coming over from Japan, all these JDM engines, it's cool to know that Subaru made these OE superchargers. And like, I feel like as these cars keep coming over, I'm going to keep learning more and seeing things I've never seen before. So I
Sure.
thought that was pretty cool.
I'll just contest on my argument that Subaru ultimately decided on turbos.
Fair, fair. You know what? That's fair. But you know what? I did find in my research that the Subaru Vivio, um, they had the RXR and the RXRA were widely used for rallying in Japan. It was motorsports trim grade with closer ratio gearing and stiffer suspension. So it had stiffer suspension than the Vivios, but it went to WRC and they did rally them. So you know what? Who's to say? It says that the most famous appearance the Vivio made in any international motorsport event was in 1993 in a round of the Safari Rally under control of former driver Noriyuki Koseki to promote the car. So, you know what? It's been around the block. It proved itself.
Yeah.
It's here. It's back again. So
Then again, Subaru side note, Subaru also had a flat 12.
oh,
That
you
maybe
know what?
another. We'll bring that up later, but
Yeah. We got to save the flat 12 conversation for way down the line. But
Subaru likes to experiment. Let's put it that way.
yeah. Well, you know what? I think that this is a good way to talk about how to cool those superchargers. So, if you would like to take the reins here, I know you want to talk a little bit about cooling. What do we need to know to cool our Subarus?
So there's a number of things that I think are from the entry point of misconceptions and issues. So number one starts with the usage of the proper radiator caps in the proper location. So for a number of years, Subaru employed kind of a dual tank setup, so to speak. And they had the radiator that had a cap, and they had an overflow tank that kind of, or an expansion tank that kind of operated the same way with its own cap. However, years later, they kind of redacted that and made it simpler. But we've also often seen a lot is cars will come in and the customer, let's say, thinks they have the dreaded head gasket issue, which is really funny. And quick, first two things we can identify as their caps are either in the wrong spot or they're using a non-OEM cap.
Yeah. Or the cap has shot up and hit the hood and is now nowhere to be found.
Yeah. And that's always a big problem. And at the same time, the other thing is thicker radiators. I think that's another kind of segue to where everybody always thinks that they need a thicker radiator. And the problem is by adding a thicker radiator, you ultimately are increasing the coolant capacity, which everyone thinks is better. But at the same time, adding a larger capacity, you have to be able to cool that. And so what we've always advised customers on is if you don't have a pre-existing heat issue or, higher coolant temperatures than what we'd look to seek to get, then there's no reason to go with a thicker radiator. At the same time, sometime when you go with thicker radiators, you encompass that with a thicker or an aftermarket a transmission cooler or an oil cooler. Now you get and present an issue where you're actually having not enough airflow through that radiator, and you have from the factory system, you have a pull style fan system. And if you have a pull style fan system, again, not to get into the subjective argument about pull versus push, but you're going to be limited because the manufacturer was designed that fan to have a certain capacity of radiator, coolant capacity, and be able to move that airflow through. Once you increase that surface area and you add other components, it's not always balanced.
So are you talking about when you add like a smaller trans cooler or oil cooler on the front of the radiator, and you're saying now that fan has to cool not only the radiator but everything in front of it, is what you're saying?
It does.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a tough one because, I mean, as far as airflow from the front of the car, making it through the fins and everything, that's not a big deal, but nobody really thinks about the fan behind it that has to now cool everything when you're sitting at an idle and things like that, you know? Yeah, that's
or
huge.
You're putting it into extreme scenarios, and that's one of the things, if anyone of our followers follows them as well, the great guys over at Flatirons here in Colorado who have run Pikes Peak hill climb numerous years have run into cooling issues. And not to say they don't know what they're doing, but they're trying to really in-depthly understand how to properly make a car go Pikes Peak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is not an easy task, to say the least.
Cooling is so crazy to me too, because after working in performance, it's something that every tuner has to think about when they're working on a car that is outside of the climate it's going to be living in, right? Like we were working, you know, out of the performance shop I worked at, we were, you know, East Coast in New Jersey, but we had a lot of customers that lived in Minnesota, a lot of customers that lived in California. You know, we were, as a Ford shop, we were the main hub for everything Shelby America did on the East Coast. We were the one shop that they trusted that they would bring all the cars to. So, you know, we're tuning a car in 30-degree colder weather than it's going to be living in when it's out in, you know, California. So it was just like a very crazy experience to think about how cooling affects all of that, and how you have to really keep it in the back of your mind of how this car is going to react, not just in front of you, but like, you know, when you go hit the track, or if you are on Pikes Peak, or, you know, altitude plays into it, things like that. You know, you just, there's so much that goes into it. And I feel like, you know, I even know from experience, I've run icebox kits as well that run, you know, cooling through the intake manifold, which is like a totally different style of cooling. You know, it's like, there's so many ways to do it, but I think that at the end of the day, like, you really just need to monitor temperatures and make sure that you are cooling your car properly, not overcooling or undercooling. You know, and then it's the same thing with people that take, you'll know this, stock cars, and they put front mount intercoolers on it and they extend the piping, and now again another problem. So
there's a good example about that with kind of not off topic, but with Ford, the Ford Focus. They came out with the Ford Focus years ago, you know, great little hot hatch, and they came out with a front mount intercooler from the factory on, and everyone bought these cars up, and everyone quickly discovered, they're like, oh, we took the bumpers off to kind of figure out how we could make them faster. And there was literally a sticker on the front, on the half of the intercooler, basically restricting airflow, which nobody conceived. They're like, oh, we're engineers, we're better than Ford, we're going to peel that sticker off and we're going to make more horsepower. Subsequently, everyone who did that blew their engines, and they went to the Ford dealers, and Ford denied them their warranty.
Wow.
because what Ford had basically designed in was let's call it an over embellishment. They tried to or thought they were going to make more horsepower or need air cooling, or rather they were trying to future build and say, hey, if you want to build the car faster, now you can put the sticker off. But the problem was people were actually condensating air. So the air that was supposed to be getting cooled, which is a good thing, if you cool it to a certain effective degree or beyond what it's designed to do, the system is, it's actually going to condensate, and now you're going to be putting moisture into your engine.
Oh man. Yeah, that's not good.
So that's why I always say not everyone is smarter than the engineers all the time.
Yeah. You know that too. It's funny with a design like that because from experience of opening recently, I had a dog crate, I had this dog fence that I bought, and it came with this massive red zip tie on it. And I'm cutting everything up and I'm cutting it open, and I cut the red zip tie, and then I look at the front of the thing and it says in the massive letters, "Do not cut red zip tie." And then I laughed because I looked in the kit. I looked in the kit of all the tools and everything it came with, and it came with a backup red zip tie because it knows that everyone cuts the zip tie, and I thought that was hilarious. And you know, that is good engineering because they know that you were not going to read the sign and just cut it. And I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about. People are like, why is a sticker on here? I'm just going to yank that. It's like,
I'll say I'm the weird guy. Every vehicle, car I've ever owned, doesn't matter, bike, I've read the owner's manual.
yeah.
I do skim through the section about how to test a fuse, but I do read it because sometimes I say every time actually I learn something about the vehicle that I've purchased. It's like I didn't know it had this feature or could do this or that or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, I think as far as cooling goes, I feel like you hit a point where you really have to go all the way, right? You know, we look at Eric Dewey, who is one of the racers for IAG. You know, he's building their track car. Like, at what point does the stock radiator no longer meet the requirement? You know, is there a certain horsepower that people should be expecting? Like, hey, this is no longer cutting it.
And I think it's not so much there's a flat line. If you're making above 300 horsepower, you need a bigger radiator. I think there's a lot more that encompasses that question. What environment is the vehicle in? How is the vehicle used and driven? Is it tracked? You know what I mean? Again, bikes peak. The environment matters dramatically. The use case matters dramatically. So I think that anybody that's not paying attention to that, and I shouldn't say paying attention to that, is missing the mark, but there's a reason why professional race teams struggle with cooling. There's a reason why Formula One teams are struggling with trying to maximize and efficiently manage cooling. I think that's the name of the game in any type of motorsport in any capacity.
Do you think that there's a point where a stock, let's say WRX or STI, is going to need to upgrade cooling even without any upgrades? Like if they're tracking it in Arizona, like, you know, do you think that there's, you know, at that point, right, do you think that a small upgrade is needed, a big upgrade? Like what is something you would recommend at your shop for that?
I always try to gauge it based on the use case, like I would just mention, but also what we're seeing in terms of data. So what we'll do oftentimes and not when we're building a car like that, like let's call for a specific purpose. Anytime you look at any build, you have to do, let's call it R&D. And so going through those motions and testing and figuring out, okay, maybe we don't want to build a car a week before race day. And the same notion, okay, maybe we want to do some testing and make sure that if the car is starting to see higher temperatures than we want when we're starting to push it, we can back out of that. That's where monitoring comes in. I would say gauges are important, but I'll quick a sidebar to access ports is they're called worry ports. Most people don't understand how to monitor things and what to monitor and what they're supposed to see. And so therefore people worry themselves. That's what we call them worry ports. But monitors are great and gauges are great. Information's great. We've long believed, not just for Subaru, but the idea of a blue light for your car is cold and red is you're already screwed. It's not good.
Yeah.
You need to have a gauge.
Yeah. Now, is there
Even
a
if we're not
brand?
having numbers printed on it.
Yeah. Is there a brand of radiator that you prefer?
We would always recommend going with the radiator that is best applicable. So, for example, Coil Rad is probably the number one first upgrade that we always recommend to everybody because Coil Rad is fantastic. We've never seen an issue with one, as well as the fitment is not, there's no fitment issues if you're trying to talk about adding a front mount intercooler with piping. Again, not knocking the CSF brand. They're great. They're thicker than the Koyos. But again, that's now going into that earlier point about if you're going to add more cooling capacity, thicker area for that air to move through, now you're going to be maybe presenting more issues than you're helping without subsequent auxiliary fans. And that's something we've actually worked on with certain specific customers where the use of a aftermarket small fan up front in front of their transmission cooler will not only drop their transmission cooler temperatures down, but fix their engine coolant temperature issues as well.
Yeah. And do you think that the air oil separator helps with that as well?
It can, but again, we've discussed on a previous episode about how they can also be issues as well, depending on use case. Now, for a particular race scenario, an AOS is absolutely fantastic. I mean, you're getting that car up to temperature, that thing's going to just work perfectly. And in the confiance of emissions as well, which is a key note compared to the other options. Even like a catch can is theoretically not emissions compliant.
Yeah. Great. I mean, I think that, a lot of people are going to be taking this and looking a little bit more at their cooling situation and really contemplating what they might need or what their situation entails. So
I'll add one more last thing about, we rarely ever unendorse a product, but we don't recommend Mishimoto for radiators.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you know what?
Lots of issues.
As a Subaru specific shop, I think a lot of people take what you say and they do their research, they check the reviews, they make sure everything checks out. And I mean, you've seen that some of them, I'm sure have issues, and that's being real world. We test products, we see what works, we see what doesn't. It is what it is.
It's a numbers game.
That's true too. Yeah.
I've never seen a Koyo radiator fail.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to switch to our fun topic of the day. Something that I enlightened you to before this is that back in 2011, What were you doing?
Oh God, 2011. I can't even place myself. I'm so terrible with time.
Well, it doesn't matter because guess what Subaru was doing? They were making anime because they decided that 2011 was their time and they were going to step up. Now, um, in 2011, they decided they were going to make an anime called Wish Upon the Pleiades. I think that's how it's said. In Japanese, it's Hokkaido no Perstedirisu.
It's not
Also,
bad. I don't know if that's right, but that sounds good.
I also butchered that 100%.
I think it sounded good.
So
if anyone's Japanese or speaks Japanese, let us know how bad that is.
Yeah. Now, I have, the thing about this that blows my mind is I have no idea why this happened because this anime makes no sense, right? I could see if they were like, hell, we're going to make another Initial D type of show. There's a really cool anime called Ghost that is also about racing and is amazing. And so, this is like Sailor Moon level, like no idea where this came from. And so,
wow.
And so it wasn't until 2015 that this anime aired. It was a 1-season gig. It came out and that was it. Now, I just want to read to you a quick premise of the first episode. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
A girl named Subaru witnesses a star shower the night before. The next day at school, she enters the viewing room to find a strange magical garden and a boy named Minato. Later on, when her compass is stolen by a strange green blob, Subaru comes across another room filled with oddly dressed girls, one of which is her friend. Now, outside of this girl's name being Subaru, which they call the clumsy main protagonist, none of this makes any sense, and I just cannot understand. The only thing I can think of is that some Subaru CEO has a daughter that just really wanted this made, and this was their brainchild, and then he just said, you know what? I'll give it to you. And then he funded it. But essentially, right, the story is she comes across a group of magical girls, among which is one of her friends, and she becomes a magical girl herself. And their duty is to search for fragments of a spaceship belonging to an alien known as Palladian. However, a mysterious boy is seeking the fragments for mischievous use. So I just wanted to, I just felt like I really had to bring this up because this just boggles my mind. And
I mean, we've done some weird marketing things in the past. It's not always a home run.
It's just interesting because I feel like Subaru, right? If they wanted to knock it out of the park, there are Subarus in Initial D. Like, that was marketing in the 90s. MF Ghost came out recently, which is an extension of Initial D with newer cars. It's actually focused around the FRS. Well, I guess it's the GR86, right? Because it's based on the AE86 from the original series. But still, that is also a BRZ, which they could have ran with, and they didn't, which is so insane to me. And
I wonder if it was a licensing issue.
You know what? It could be. I could see that. It could be also that with Initial D, they may have made a deal with Toyota originally, and maybe they're just sticking with that deal. It's possible. But Wish Upon the Pleiades, if you've seen it, or if you are watching it, or if you're looking for it, please let me know how it is, because I have not seen it, but I am very interested to find out if there are any Subaru references in this show. I feel like I will end up looking for this I just feel like I need to know.
I'm going
But
to have to look it up.
apparently can be found on YouTube is what I'm reading.
Okay.
So good to know. But yeah, so that's your fun informational topic of the day from me. Now, something that Subaru put out in the news recently that I do want to talk about is they came out with the Trail Seeker, which in my opinion looks exactly like a extended Crosstrek. And it was an EV, so it is not gas powered, so it's not a Crosstrek. But what I found interesting is that Crosstreks, I feel like the biggest thing that I have not liked about them is that they always feel too small. They always feel like they don't have enough trunk space. But an Outback, which is longer, it's almost like it takes away from the Crosstrek look. So I'm gonna show real quick what this thing looks like. Let me pull it up here. This is the new I forgot the name of it already. The Trail Seeker. I love that they put the Subaru in the taillights, by the way. I love this whole look. I hate badges.
I'm with you.
I they're getting well, let me put it this way. They're getting away from the badge, which is kind of sad because I love the Subaru badge. But
Sure.
I feel like
But you can put that in other places, you know?
Yeah. I feel like the word Subaru is a little bit tacky when it's just on the car or whatever. So, I actually like the look of this thing outside of the front end, but
I do too.
I like the roof rack. I like the runners. I like Subaru's doing this thing now, which they've been doing for a couple years with these fenders with the plastic and
the cladding.
It just looks out of place. Like you look at this front end, right? The back one, okay, doesn't look terrible.
Well, remember the '90s are coming back, and they're now all of a sudden retro. Now I feel like I'm old. So you look at the back in the '90s, a '96 Outback had all the plastic cladding.
That's true. That is true. I just personally, what it feels like to me is that you just end up with like, if you see it, if anybody who's listening, the front end of this thing, it looks like a Tesla, right? Where it has like there's no grill. It's just a flat front end, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But then
you don't need as much airflow for an EV.
Yeah. But then the plastic fender curls around to the front end and covers the fog lights.
Yeah, I don't love that either.
And what I don't like is right here. This would bother me to no end, I promise you. The fender cuts halfway through the door of
I didn't notice that until you pointed it out. That's a good point.
It's not a
weird design choice.
It's not a perfect split either. It like comes down over the corner of the door.
I feel like that's a confliction between like the design of what it was supposed to be, maybe like the halfway of the new Outback or something. And then they're like, well, let's make it this.
You know what this feels like to me is that they had that company that came out that's been doing the colored fenders that, they match the car. And I feel like this is how they were saying, no, we're done with that. You cannot replace these. It is part of your door. You cannot get rid of these fenders.
Or replace your entire, charging port cover now, because you're right.
The whole thing.
Like they're trying to integrate it as much as possible.
Yeah. And so this is one EV of the lineup here. So they got the 2026 Solterra EV, which to me just looks like a Hyundai Santa Fe. The 2026 Outback, which I actually like, looks pretty good. And the Outback Wilderness is so cool. I actually love this thing. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
We have a number of customers, not with the new one, but we have a number of customers with wilderness Outbacks, and they are just fantastic. I guess what's really changed is the shift to where I always say, you see it with trucks. Trucks used to be utilitarian, a work vehicle, and now they're $80,000 to $100,000, and they come with Napa grain leather and Alcantara suede. Don't put your work boots on anywhere.
Well, so the one thing that I do love about this new Outback, which I thought was such a cool feature that they did, is, let me put it on the screen here. Anybody listening, sorry, we're doing a lot of visuals right now. They added like rear lights. I don't know if you saw that. The lights are
No, I didn't.
So they added these, they're almost like off-road lights, but they added them into the panel for the taillights.
Okay.
So they're like, I assume that those
extra
are like,
bright reverse lights for off-roading.
That's what I'm like. They added the extra bright fog lights, but then they added those backlights that it looks like are almost for off-roading as well. Like
Yeah.
It feels to me like you could almost turn them on and not be in reverse. Like that's the look that they give.
Maybe, but the only issue with that is depending on if let's say they're even a white light, or because it looks like they're white and amber, kind of half and half. If you could turn those on while driving down the road, there's a legal liability, I think. It's like having a switch to a reverse light to keep people from tailgating you.
Yeah. They just look really cool how they're built into the panel. I like it a lot. I think it's a good look.
I do like that. I do like that a lot. I think the look is clean, and my only concern is when you start to integrate things more and more that people want to do to their cars, there's a trade-off, because at some point people want to have their own individuality and do what they want to do. And when you integrate something like that, it's like, well, you kind of remove that a little bit.
I agree with that. I think, yeah, it's nice because, right,
it's a trade-off.
It kind of does add to it also, though, because now think about it. You got lights that are built into that panel, right? The wiring is there. Now, if it's plug and play, depending on what the back of it looks like, you could add different lights. You're
not wrong. You could piggyback off of that.
I think that the problem normally, right, is that they don't give you enough to work with. So after all these aftermarket companies come out and you got to buy harnesses and you got to buy all this extra stuff and just to get where you want to be. But the wiring is there. It's built in. You could upgrade the bulbs. You could probably upgrade the whole light fixture if you wanted to. I think that
what I like to say, this is probably for the majority. This is probably for the majority of people. This will capture what they need. I guess there's always that uniqueness, I think, which also encompasses a lot of the Subaru owners. I think not only in our group, but just the Subaru owners in general. They want to be able to make their vehicle personalized a little bit.
Yeah, like even the gold bezel around it, like people are probably going to start selling different colored bezels for those.
Guaranteed.
It's another piece that you can upgrade. Like, I don't know. I like this design. I'm not usually a huge Outback guy, but I feel like they've done it right, where they added the right pieces to make it fun and exciting and new, and it doesn't feel like that old man like Outback. The wilderness one, I could see a young family with kayaks and all their camping stuff on this thing. Like, it just feels like a more fresh vehicle that they've come out with.
Yeah, I like to see that when a company like Subaru is embracing more of their customer base, because what are people doing with these things? They're basically trying to get to places. It's a destination type vehicle in a lot of ways. Not saying, we don't enjoy the time in the vehicle, but the vehicle needs to be capable. It needs to get you to where you're going safely, reliably. And in a Subaru's encompassment, they can get you to 90% of the places off-road.
that even the regular one, the regular Outback looks pretty good too. I think that they did a good design across the board for both. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in the comments here. You can see the death of the Outback and looks more like a Ford and blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't think that these are the people that are Outback customers, Like, these are probably WX guys who just, are like, oh my gosh, that's not an
Or just
Outback. It's,
keyboard warriors, as I call them.
yeah. I think that the Outback has been evolving for years. Like, it's no longer like
A
an
legacy.
extension of a legacy. It's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry to cut.
no, you're good.
For anyone who asked, the record is, let it be said, I'm an Outback guy. I own two, and I have a lifted and lowered one. So I have both opposites, and I love them both.
Yeah, I mean, they'll even have the 26 Subaru Forester Wilderness coming out, which is a super exciting car. There's just a lot of cool stuff that they're coming out with. And this leads me into something I am very excited to do. I have a list of names of new vehicles that Subaru is coming out with, or has patents on, I should say. Not coming out with, but they do have patents on these. And so, because the Trail Seeker was one of the cars that was in that patent list, a lot of people are now saying that the rest of this list could be a possibility. So I'm going to read you off each name, and I want you to give me a number from 1 to 10 of how much you like the name for a future Subaru.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I like this game.
So, first one, the Subaru Accomplice.
Don't love it. It's kind of a lesser version of a wingman. Everyone needs a wingman, but an accomplice, it's like, ooh.
I'm gonna give this a 9 because I'm excited for the first bank robbery that they get on the news, and they say he's getting away in a Subaru Accomplice. I'm very excited for that.
You're not wrong. That could be their marketing plan. Maybe they're realizing that a lot of bank robberies in the last 10 years have all transpired in a Subaru. I don't know. I don't track them.
You know what?
That'd be kind of interesting.
You know what? They should hire me for their marketing team, because they should, for 4th of July, for their sales or whatever, they should say, for steals like this, you're going to need an accomplice. Boom. Sold. Be done with it.
Yes. Sell it. Print it.
All right. I kind of like the rest of these. All right. What number did you give that one?
Oh, I have to give that a 2. I'm sorry.
I
don't like the Accomplice. That's a terrible name.
All right, here's the next one. The Subaru Everguide.
Don't love it either, man. It's almost like the Everglades or something. I don't know what you're trying to do there.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Again, I'll give that a 2.5, 3. I'm not loving that one, man.
I'm with you. I give that one a 2. I'm not a big fan.
They better do better than this.
Oh, just wait. The Subaru Everpass. It gets worse.
I'll go. Oh, okay. Oh, I have to give myself room there, because I was about to give that a really low score. That's really bad though. I'll give that below a 2. That's like a 1.5. That's really bad. Really bad.
I'm gonna say.
Who's the marketing team?
I don't know. I'm gonna say a 1.5, because I think the Everguide is a little more marketable than the Everpass. Because I will forever pass on an Everpass.
Yeah. You can see the jokes. You know what I mean? That's the problem. It's like when you when you write a bunch of names, it's like, how did that pass QC?
Yeah. Well, you know what? These are all patents, so maybe they're just preparing for the future. Maybe they're just
Okay.
trying
Maybe
to
it'll
come.
mature. Maybe it'll mature in 10 years. We'll be like, ooh, the Everglide is great. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe they just, because of EVs, they're using every word possible with EV at the start of it. I don't know. This is my favorite one, actually. I lied. Accomplice is a close second. The
Okay.
Subaru Getaway.
Now I like that one. I like that one. I like that one. We should sell that one.
The Subaru Getaway.
That one's great.
Oh, dude.
Mm.
I'm just imagining
Okay, I'm
all
seeing
the
the marketing campaigns. It's
I'm
good.
just all the bank robbings that are happening. The accomplice and the getaway are in a chase.
Oh, maybe they're like two like complementary models, you know?
I could see it. Maybe Subaru's getting into cop cars. I don't know.
Hey,
Now
that's a market.
that would be
That's a market.
something. Yeah, yeah. The Chargers are
Would
done.
would it be better getting chased in your Subaru STI by a Subaru accomplice? Oh crap.
I give Getaway. I'm gonna say a 9.5. I like it better than Accomplice.
No, I do. Actually, I'll get close. I'll give that a 7.
Okay,
I
okay.
like I like it. I like it.
The Subaru High Road.
The more we go through these, I feel like there is a certain disconnect of a language barrier. I feel like maybe what they were trying to achieve was something different than where they're actually at. And they're like, okay. Fun side note, if anyone doesn't know where Lexus got its name from, it's luxury export for the US.
Oh, I did not know that. Let's,
They pretty much took all the little acronym, little badges on the back of cars, and they were like, wait, luxury export US. Okay.
this sounds to me like they don't care how it translates. So,
That's what I'm
and
wondering right here now. It sounds a little like, guys, did you put this to your research board, and test anybody on this and see how they actually responded?
yeah, you know what? I'll say High Road. You know, it could be a song in my head. That's what I'm thinking. I'll give it a 6. I think it's a 6 worthy.
I'll give it a 4, but you got to. I'd give it a 9 if you followed up with a low road.
You know what? It does have a follow up. The next patent on the list is the Subaru High Trail.
See, now we're getting more potential, a little bit more.
So to me, this is like the Outback and then the Outback Wilderness. That are like the high
Yeah.
road and then the high trail. I could see
I
it.
still can't help but seeing a language barrier here.
Yeah.
It's the high road. Is that really what you guys were going for?
Yeah. I'm going to give High Trail a 7, one above High Road, just because,
Yeah.
it's probably the higher model.
I'll tie you on that. I'll give that a 7. Actually, it's not horrible. It's not
Okay.
like some of the the other ones. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, here's a good one. The Subaru Outsider.
see,
God,
I like that one the most. I'll give that a 9.
I hope that's a Subaru V8. I would love that.
Darn right. It's probably going to be a hybrid.
The Subaru, it's got to be an outsider. It's got to be different. We're talking Subaru inline 6-cylinder turbo.
Outsider though, a hybrid, and I'll just go on record and saying hybrid I think is the perfect medium.
Yeah, that's fair. I give outsider. I kind of like it. I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, I'm solid with 9.
Yeah. The Subaru Tailwind.
That might be a 9.5. That's good.
I do like that one. The
I like
Tailwind.
that a lot.
I think that would be cool for like to me that's like a sports car name, like a smaller sedan or something like.
But it could even be a crossover.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I
it kind of feels like I guess it kind of like strikes me as that kind of like trailblazer space.
I could see that. You know what? I could see that. Um, Tailwind, I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
You're brutal.
Yeah.
I gave that one the highest score so far. I like that one.
Well, listen, I have high hopes for Getaway and Accomplice, so it's hard to beat that.
Me too. As long as they have the pair,
Yeah.
they have to have both. If they only release one, they're gonna tank.
I hope that it's like a his and hers Forester or something.
Ooh. See, now they need to hire you for the marketing.
Yeah, the Getaway and the Accomplice. It's perfect.
That's way better.
Like a Bonnie and Clyde thing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, next one. The Subaru Trailhead.
I don't hate it. I'll give it. I'm not going to high score it. I'm going to give it an 8, but at the same time, I see the jokes. I won't even go there. But there's too many jokes about that one. And again, I think that's a marketing thing where they're going to internalize and go years later, like, why do we patent that? Because no one actually wants this patent. Even if they're buying patents just to try to sell patents, and someone else might want it. No, Chevrolet doesn't want that. No one wants that patent. I'm sorry, Subaru. I think you guys missed the mark on that one.
Somebody wrote Trailhead down, and they all looked at each other, and they were like, "You know what? Let's just secure it, just in case."
I mean, that's what we call it when we go hiking, or anywhere. It's the trailhead, but that also means other things.
I'm gonna give Trailhead a 8.5. I do like the meme of
it. Hey, you know what? If Subaru wanted to embrace it and kind of ride with it, might be really popular. Bad publicity, good publicity.
It could be hilarious.
Yeah, it could go both ways.
I just love it. Subaru Trail Seeker.
Now, see, that's a good one. I'm gonna give that a 9.8, dude. That's good. The Trail Seeker is smart.
I give Trail Seeker a 10, right? Because a Trail Seeker, you could have bike holder attachments that come with it as a package. You could have lights that are internal to the car. You could have like so many things to go finding trails, right? Like that could be their whole market with this thing.
Have you ever seen the Pontiac Stinger concept? I think that's what it's called, the Stinger.
The Stinger.
But it's basically like this beach goer vehicle. The top comes off. It's all these things. The doors come off, and there's like coolers inside the doors. There's an inner panel of the seat that comes out, and it's a camping chair. Bluetooth speaker built into the car that disconnects. Like all these little things. It was a concept vehicle, but it was like so ahead of its time in that I feel like Subaru could kind of get back into that niche of giving people some weird stuff.
You know what's so annoying is that anything that they put in the car, right, they're then responsible for. And I don't actually believe in that. I have never believed in that, because I feel like it would be so cool if they had their own Subaru branded flashlights that pull off the wall of the car. If they had Subaru coolers built into the trunk, and then the problem is people are like, oh, there was a scratch in my cooler, or the light stopped working, and now you got to warranty it. But it's like
the key metric is they need to partner with companies. So all of a sudden that cooler is manufactured by Yeti.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That flashlight, it's manufactured by Streamlight. And so you kind of remove yourself. At the end of the day, these manufacturers, no offense, are not the manufacturers of flashlights or coolers. We're not asking them to be. Partner with these companies.
That would be such a cool concept, dude. I love Trail Seeker. 10 out of 10. Love it.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna move my 9.8 to 10 out of 10. Actually, I'm with you on that. I think Trail Seeker could actually reinvent a whole category or reinvigorate a category that they're already pushing heavily into with the Wilderness brand.
Yeah. I have two more, and I do like the next one. The Subaru Uncharted.
That's 10 out of 10 too.
Yeah, I do like that. I think
that's perfect.
I think that would be a really cool one. I agree with that. 10 out of 10. And the final one is the Subaru Viewfinder.
7.
Yeah. I'm middle of the road on that one.
Yeah, the last two were really good. I think those are shamelessly, if Subaru is watching, look in the comments and see what people are saying too, because I think that this could be your marketing R&D right here.
I think Viewfinder for me, I get it, right? Like you're out there looking for a view, like, but like it's too generic. I just don't like it. I think like Trail Seeker and Uncharted, like Subaru has for the last couple of years been turning their brand to these people that are looking to go out and adventure and bring their bikes.
And I'll say it right now, don't want a Jeep.
Agreed. They don't want a Jeep. They want something that they like and agree with, and
gets good gas mileage on the road. Never have to worry about death wobble.
There's no one named Elon running the company. I think that this fits their market so well, and again, the biggest thing that I think, this is where I think the brand splits, right, is that they're making Trail Seeker EVs, but like the Outback really fits like where you are, the Colorado theme. You're in the wilderness.
Sure.
There is no charging. You can put gas containers on the back of an Outback and you can roll out in the wilderness and have extra gas, but you can't, like, I don't know exactly how it works, but you can't bring extra batteries. Like, I don't know if that's a thing or not yet, but I think that Subaru's kind of doing this thing right now where like they're really pushing the wilderness and the foresters and all of the outdoor activity stuff, but then they're trying to make the EVs that way, but I just don't see the practicality of it. The Trail Seeker EV is a cool name, but like, you know what I mean?
I think my problem, or I guess my relation to the EV market comes from a long tenured experience with the personal electric vehicle market, of starting with electric skateboards. Now I'm on to electric bikes, motorcycles, you should say. And for example, there's a notable company, and I don't want to single them out, but it's removed from kind of our topic market here of Subaru, but the company named Zero Motorcycles, and they came out with a dual sport motorcycle, and they advertised it, and their ad campaign, the first photo was on the side of a cliff in Moab, Utah. And like, here's this electric venture bike. I already can see the fucking negative campaign behind, where are you going to charge it? You're in the middle of Utah in the desert. So I think that there's limitations with electric vehicles, and effectively being very ingrained in the electric motorcycle market, I feel that while there are a lot of hurdles in that market alone, you try to scale that up to an automotive vehicle and it just kind of loses over and over again.
Yeah, you know what? I just had a great idea. If they had those big posters or billboards in the middle of nowhere and you could plug into it and that was your charging spot, hey, that would be rad. I'm just saying.
But they're not there yet. And for personal electric vehicles, they're fantastic. Like, for example, my bike can do 85 miles an hour and 75 miles of range. It's perfect for inner town, city, meeting up with friends. But if friends want to go do 200 miles of canyon cruising, I can't keep up with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where my fear is with. I've seen all these articles coming out this week saying that there will not be another gas WRX STI. Everything's going to be EV from now on. And it hurts. I just hate the thought of that because it's just not what it was. Like, people fell in love with the Rumble. Now it's just going to be the EV, STI, WRX. Like, I just don't know why everybody can't take a note out of Toyota's book where Toyota's like, we'll do the EV thing, but we're not done. Like, we are going to keep making cars. The GR Corollas are selling. The GR Yaris's in Japan are selling. People want fast, fun cars. And I just don't understand why they can't. I guess it's just the way of the world now and their marketing campaign, or, Subaru maybe just aligns better with the EV market, but it's just kind of sad that this is the way that things are going.
I think there is a middle ground. There is a middle ground where, for example, we've seen, with Tesla, for better or for worse. Tesla came out, and the minute people took their stock Teslas to the drag strips, they were breaking every record. And they were like, all right, you got to put a cage in these things because they're that fast. Which kind of sums up that these cars are arguably, for better or for worse, maybe are not safe for the general populace. Not everyone should have a Tesla Plaid. But at the same time, I think maybe that's where Subaru is kind of looking at it, or two-sided. Obviously, they have the pressure from the media and marketing wanting to do EVs, but at the same time, they're looking at it going, what if we had an STI that could do the quarter mile in 7 seconds?
I hear it. I mean, what's interesting is, did you see the black STI that Subaru made that they were racing?
Yeah.
It's like, that was
Project Midnight, I think it was. Yeah.
That was everywhere when those photos came out. People were blown away. People were praying that car was coming to production, And
but at the same time, would you want to daily drive one of those cars? Would you want to drive that across country? Probably not. By the time you make a car, even a Tesla quote unquote Model Plaid, it's subjective to where, okay, could you make a Tesla Model Plaid a lot faster? Yes. Remove the air conditioning. Remove all the seats. Remove the infotainment system. Like, strip that thing down to a real track car. And I'm not saying that's what we're going to get as a consumer. My point is that from a consumer level, they can go, well, what is the average STI owner using the car for? Are they going up to meets and they're showing off and they're doing less than 200 miles of range? Probably. So maybe the new electric STI might actually have a fucking space, because people are not worried about the range of an STI with bucket seats and 5-point harnesses. They're just going out to smoke everybody.
I could see it. I mean, I get it. I think that a little bit of it, at least for me, is that we talked about personalization and people wanting to have their own car be theirs. And a lot of these
Sure.
people, the wheels and the lights and whatever, it's just not enough. And they like having to build an engine, build a trans, upgrade a turbo, upgrade an intercooler. I think that with the batteries, we're just not there. We just don't have upgrades, or we don't know enough about it to mess with it, or we're worried about.
Well, yes and no, because I'm in that space and I can see that it's all about. There's a handful of people that understand this and understand how to do motor upgrades, controller tuning, battery upgrades. There's different cells. There's different Molly cells, Samsung cells, you name it, to where all of a sudden you can now have one has more range, one has more amperage output. Do you want to race? Do you want to go far? And that's where the industry is actually evolving, which is very interesting. But I will never contest that if you want to have a car that can go cross country, give me a petrol engine.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things with Subaru that I just really doubt anybody wants to upgrade a battery, right, or mess with a battery, and then
Sure.
and then it's $26,000 to replace the battery that they just messed with and destroyed.
Sure.
So I could see, I don't know, I could see where things are going, and I know that I'm sure if I got behind the wheel of an electric STI, I would have fun with it. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I just feel that already with the FA engines, we got rid of the rumble, and then now we got rid of the STIs, and it's like, it just feels like we just keep getting rid of things, and we're not.
We keep losing.
Yeah. It's like nobody's asking for that. People were mad when the Evo disappeared. Mitsubishi said, "We don't care. We're gonna go make heaters." They said, "We're gonna go make anything else."
Forklifts.
Forklifts. We're done. And it's a shame. I mean, people still buy and still build Evos. They still look for the Evo MRs. I see them at the drag strip all the time. It's like they build these communities and these people want these things to live on, and then they just take it away. And it's like they're, and you know what? The last point I'm going to make is look at Boxer Fest. Look at Wicked Big.
Yeah.
Look at, what is it? West Coast Subaru or Midwest Subaru, whatever the other event is. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people show up. They have the off-road section with the Outbacks, with the Foresters. They have all of the racing Subarus there. They have the lowered Subarus there. They have everything there. And you know what? I almost never see an EV anywhere. Where it's like, these events are for the people that they love Subaru, they love to build them, and like the community shows up because they care about them. And I just feel like it's because we are somebody, I am somebody that has this community of people that are focused on diagnosing, right? Like, where does that leave our community down the road? You know what I mean?
Sure. And I think it's ultimately going to evolve at the same time, because you have, and I have a close relation with the EV market to a sense, and there's an equally growing community, and I couldn't be more excited, because I'm optimistic type of person, to see these two kind of converging mindsets converge, because tuning won't go away. Modifying won't go away. If tomorrow everything's electric, which won't happen. Uh, the performance modification community, let's call it, will still be alive and well, and it's very strong and well in the aftermarket electric community.
I,
I see that
I,
very closely.
I guess what gives me a little bit of hope is when you look at RC cars. You know, RC cars
Sure.
are expensive to build. They're all electric, and people have been modifying them for a long time. So at the end of the day, right, if they can get these electric car prices down on batteries and everything else for them, maybe there's a world where eventually these electric cars become like RC cars and you just end up swapping parts in and out. And then, there could be some modification to it.
I think they'll have their space. I don't believe in them in a replacement,
Yeah.
at least anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap this up. This was a great conversation. I loved all of this. Um, I
Always,
think
man.
I think next time we should try to bring in some members of the group and have a conversation with some extra people and talk about their cars, builds, what people are working on. At the end of the day, I think we really want this group to be a community and a conversation, not just between you and me, even though I do love these conversations.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited to see what's to come, and we're going to keep these going, and we'll see where everything lies at the end. But yeah, we're excited to keep doing this, and we will see you guys on the next one. See you later.